Welcome mamas to our postpartum deep stretch workout. This one's great for all my postpartum moms if you're breastfeeding or if you just need a good deep stretch. We're gonna go ahead and get started with our first exercise, which is a child's pose. So arms extend, hips back, knees out a little bit wider than your hips, and then you're just pushing your hips to your heels, melt your chest to the floor and just release. We're just gonna hold here. If it feels comfortable to you, you could take the knees wider, you could bring them in closer. Just let your head fall heavy. You can look to the side or down if you want. We're gonna hold all these for about a minute, just moving fluidly one pose into the next. This one's great for releasing that neck, shoulders, back, hips. It's a great stretch to start with. And we're gonna move on and we're gonna thread the needle. So we take one arm, let's do the back arm first. Bring it through so the palm is up and we lay down on the side of the head and we're rolling onto that back shoulder, those rear delts, and trying to open up that upper back. So you're kind of rolling onto that shoulder blade to try to pull it open, if that makes sense. Like you're trying to pull the flesh off the shoulder blade. As women, especially postpartum, if you're carrying baby around, nursing, carry a lot of tension in your neck and shoulders. And a lot of demands are put on your postural muscles of the back. So this is a great stretch to help relieve that tension. We're gonna go ahead and move directly into the other side. Now as you get more comfortable, maybe you start to roll more onto that back shoulder. Just a little bit longer here. And we're gonna move on to our frog hip opener. So now we're gonna take the knees wider than the mat, and you can even come to the side if you want here. So your knees are supported, feet flexed, toes out, and then just melt your chest to the floor. I'm gonna start with my arms closer and just let my chest gently go to the floor. This is gonna give you a deep stretch through those inner thighs and your back. So do what feels comfortable here. For me, I'm really tight, so it's hard for me to work down to the floor, but if you can get your chest to the floor, you can go ahead and drop all the way down. So you can go here if you're ready, you can stay up a little bit if you're ready. And breathe through this pose, all these poses. It's really important to just take deep breaths in and out. Send oxygen to those muscles to help them release. We're gonna move on to our pigeon hip opener. So for this one, we'll start with that left leg back and the right leg forward. And then this foot is flexed in the right leg. You're gonna pull that foot into your groin and then extend that back leg. If that's too much, you can bend that back leg and keep it at a 90-degree. Now here, if you're feeling good, you can start to work the arms down, get deeper into that hip, but try not to just roll over onto that hip. Try to keep the hips square to the floor here. You're gonna feel a big stretch, that side glute. for me is always really tight. We're gonna build on this stretch. We're gonna take that back leg, cross it over here, so the foot's on the ground, and then you're gonna take this arm, front arm, back leg, use it to kind of twist your chest and reach back with that other arm back behind you. Start to look over that back shoulder and then rotate. And you can keep that hand here, or you can cup your back glute with it and twist. Whatever feels good. Keep it here, here. Just focus on twisting, trying to turn that chest to the back wall. If there's a wall where you are, I suppose. Trying to gaze over that back shoulder, working on that spinal mobility here. Opening that hip, you're gonna feel a deeper stretch in that glute. And we're moving on. We're gonna stack these two legs now. So keeping the legs like this, we're just gonna pull this top leg back so the knees are stacked over and then the feet just flare out like this. So your hips might be really tight and it might be difficult to get into this position. If so, just stay here, or you can come to a butterfly stretch with your heels together. And if you're feeling good here, you can start to fold forward and release, and you'll feel a deeper stretch in that top and bottom hip. Again, feet flex protects the knees. And this stretch is great. We, as women, carry a lot of tension in our hips, and that affects our core function, our glute function, and so it's really important for postpartum as we're rehabbing our core to get that hip mobility, which will help with that. All right, we're gonna do everything on the other side this time. So this time, we've got that opposite leg, your left leg forward, right leg back, flexing that foot, pull it into your groin. You can stay upright here, or if you're ready, feeling good, you can go ahead and melt toward the floor. And you can stay propped up on your elbows. You can take it all the way down where your chest is on the floor. For me, that's a little too intense, so I'm gonna stay right here, but you do what works for you. You can even stay upright, or again, bend that back leg for that 90-90 hip stretch to modify it. We're gonna move into that next stretch where we cross over that back leg. So back leg crosses over the quad, back arm comes forward, using that elbow to kind of pull the chest, walking that other arm back, looking over the shoulder, and twisting through that thoracic spine. You can cut that glute right here if you want to rotate a little more. One side you might find you can rotate more easily, you can get a little more mobility. And we're gonna move into go ahead and stacking those knees, one on top of the other. And you can modify with the butterfly stretch, flex those feet. You can stay up here or lean it forward. I can tell here for me, it's this left hip, this left side that's really tight compared to the right. So it's a little hard for me on this side, and that might be the case for you too. One side's harder than the other, that's okay. You don't have to do the most advanced option on both sides. Do what works for you. It's a great way to even everything out. Especially when you have a baby, usually you're prone to carrying on one side, on one hip, breastfeeding on one side. So that one side gets maybe overused and the other side will overcompensate for that and could cause injury. So it's really important to stretch and strengthen everything equally, individually as well. Unilateral training is what that's called. All right, we're gonna move on, stretching the neck. So just come to a comfortable seated position. You can just cross your legs like this, doesn't really matter too much. What I'm gonna have you do is just gently cup your head. One hand comes across, draping across the ear. One arm comes on the floor. You're just gonna gently take your neck, lean it over, just gently pull. You can look straight ahead, you can look to the side, doesn't really matter here. We're just gently stretching that neck. Not really pulling, just kind of letting the hand guide it. We're gonna move on. We're gonna take this bottom arm, releasing it to the floor, and this top arm up and over. Get a deeper stretch through that side body. Reaching through that top arm, really reaching the fingertips. It's like you're trying to pull your ribs off your hip, pull that lat to release all that tension. I know I've got a lot of tension here. And if it's too much, you can come up back onto your arm. You don't have to go all the way to your forearm if that doesn't feel right. We're gonna do that same thing on the other side, gently cupping the head, just pulling the neck, keeping that hand on the floor. We wanna keep the hand on the floor so we create that little bit of a line of pull. If you just release the hand, you're kind of just gonna flop over here. That hand on the ground really pulls those neck muscles. So where it feels like a nice deep stretch. And if it's not comfortable, you can just pull a little bit less. You don't have to lean as far to this side. We're gonna go ahead and take this arm to the ground, forearm goes down, top arm reaches up and over. Now your hips might wanna lift here too. I meant to say that the first time. Try not to let them lift, at least not to where you're really leaning into that side. You wanna keep this hip down and this arm actively reaching, this arm actively pressing away, because that's gonna create that line of pull, again, where you feel that stretch, right? You're not just kind of chilling here, we're actively stretching and opening. So another thing you can do here too is rotate your chest. See how I'm lifting and reaching up and over, rotating my chest as I do it? That's gonna create a little bit of a deeper stretch. If you're not there yet though, no big deal. You can also come back up here. But again, I want you to pull that through that lat, pull the ribs off your hips, really feel that arm extending. That's a tough one, honestly. It's hard for me to do some of these. All right, we're gonna come onto our back now and bring the hands underneath your back, clasping the hands together, tucking those shoulders under, and then bridging the hips. So we're relaxed up here. And here, usually in a glute bridge, I want you to stay low to engage those glutes. Here, you can lift higher. So we release through those hip flexors. And then we're also pulling those shoulder blades together and creating a chest and a shoulder opener with that hand clasp. Now, whichever way you clasp your hands, I want you to unclasp and do the opposite direction. So we get that natural clasp, and then the other side, which usually feels a little bit weird, but it's good. We want to get both of those shoulders equally open. It's a good workout for those glutes too. And release down to the ground. Okay, we're gonna move on to a happy baby stretch. So we're gonna grab those feet, pull the knees down, and then flex the feet, opening the hips. So right here, we're just keeping the feet flexed, outside of the feet, pulling the knees to the floor. Now you will probably find quickly your threshold, how low you can get. This is as low as I can get. Great, stop there. You want it to be slightly uncomfortable, but not forcing it, right? You don't want to force it to the point where you're not really getting a good stretch and you're just trying to achieve something. It's really great for opening those hips, inner thighs. A great spinal release for that low back. All right, we're gonna move on. Now, taking the arms wide, taking one leg up and over, stretch that biceps femoris, this back part of your leg, and a little spinal twist. So you can keep this leg bent or straight. What I want you to pay attention to is this back arm, keeping that shoulder blade on the ground. Rotate so you're looking toward the back hand. And then with that front hand, you're just pulling gently on that back of that leg to open up the glute. You can keep this leg bent, or you can straighten it, like I said, whatever feels good here. But we're actively pulling this leg forward and actively reaching back with the opposite arm, pulling the shoulder blade to the ground. So we really feel that rotation. All right, we're moving on to the other side. Same thing, other leg, extend, bend, twist, and let that front shoulder blade melt into the ground. Now, when you do that, you press that shoulder blade down and you're pulling through this leg. You are gonna feel a really nice deep stretch. So it's not just, again, hanging out, collapsing into it like this. You're really creating that deep stretch that your hips really need here. And that hard to get area, right? The piriformis, the biceps femoris, back here, all those muscles get super, super tight just from everyday life, especially if you're working out, doing my postpartum glute and core workouts, which you should. If you haven't, this is a great routine to add in after those workouts are on an off day. All right, we're gonna move on now to a lying butterfly stretch. So we're gonna stay here on our backs. You can keep your hands wide, you can take them down. You're gonna bring your feet together, heels together, glue them together, and then just let those knees start to fall. So keeping those heels together again, so we're actively stretching. Let the hips fall open. Just do what feels natural here with your arms. And there you have it. We're done. 20 minutes postpartum deep stretch. It's a great addition to any workout, or if you just want to do it on an off day, it's going to help relieve those tight neck, shoulders, and hips. So give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Subscribe, check out my other postpartum strength and toning workouts to help you get back into shape after baby.